So what brings you to the session? Let's just do a quick little interaction. Come on, girls, sit anywhere. Thank you. Did you get the lock picked? Yeah. Good job. They got one picked really good. Did you get more than one? One. Get out. All right. Well, let's have a seat. Thank you, ladies. Oh, up front. You're going to sit up front. Well, sit right there so I can move around. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Because the audience is a little bit older, I would imagine you guys have been in technology for a little while now. I would imagine you know a little bit about technology. So one of the things I'm going to talk about are some of the things that go on behind the scenes, things you don't know about, but also ways that you guys can keep yourself safer online. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, for me, cybersecurity was something I got into about 10 years ago. I've been an IT person my whole life, but about 10 years ago, I worked on a case with the FBI, and it just sort of changed everything for me. So, and it wasn't what you consider a violent crime case. It was a case that they considered to be a non-violent crime case, but it went across multiple states, and so I had to do forensics and things like that, which I thought was really exciting. So that kind of got me into cybersecurity, and now I'm just hooked. I absolutely love cyber, and this is what I do for a living. My name is Cherie English, and I own a cybersecurity company, and what I do every day is try to keep companies safe and secure from hackers. So in order to be a cyber person, I became a hacker. I am what's called a certified ethical hacker. I know it seems kind of like an oxymoron, but what that means is I agree to only hack people who give me permission. Does that make sense? Because otherwise it's illegal. In the United States, it is illegal to hack without written, signed permission. So by learning to hack, you can learn what the hackers do. And so from my standpoint, I know what a hacker does, I know what they're capable of doing, and I know how all the hacks happen. So I can help educate you guys on those things. Maybe it's a leg up over there. I'm really bad with low-tech stuff. So one of the things I like to think about cyber citizenship is just like citizenship anywhere else. So in the United States, you have citizenship, which means you agree to a set of rules in that country, in that city, in your school. So I know that a lot of schools have citizenship rules as well. And I think if you think of cybersecurity the same way, you just really have to kind of agree to the set of rules that we're going to go over. And then it just becomes a part of your normal everyday life. Thank you. How do you know what the rules are, and how do you get reported if you don't follow the rules? Unfortunately, the challenge can be that if you don't follow the rules, you could be breaking the law. So there are a lot of laws in regards to cybersecurity. From a hacking perspective, in order to do hacking, you really have to set up your own lab, your own set of computers so that you can hack into them, that kind of thing. Otherwise, you would be. But we have to understand what all those rules are. Is my clicker not, is it just me? Okay, no worries. So we have to define the rules, understanding what those are, and we have to understand not everyone will follow the rules. One of the statistics I think that would surprise you guys. So how many of you know are familiar with the concept of, don't talk to strangers online? Okay, right? But a lot of the people you think are not strangers are actually strangers. So 67% of people online are not who they say they are. 67%. So to me, that's a super high statistic. Basically, if I think about it, what happens is I could be in a group like this and have a conversation, and afterwards one of you could say, oh yeah, I play such and such game, and I can just slip in, oh, what's your username? And the next thing you know, I now have your username, I can friend request you. Now, me personally, you've met in this room, but I'm still practically a stranger. So not understanding the fact that people will come in and get your user ID, they can use your user ID, they can hack into your user ID. So the rules of our cyber citizenship, I'm going to go over with you. In the country, There are certain things, if you come into the United States, you have to pass a citizenship exam. Same thing with a state citizen. In the school, notice I put insert rules here because all schools are different. I have no idea what your school rules are. But there are rules typically in schools for cyberbullying. So that would be a rule that would be out there already. And really the biggest thing is to be lawful and honest. If you follow that, you won't get into any trouble. But how do you know what is illegal? Anything that someone hasn't told you you can do in writing is illegal. So if you try to create or break a barrier between, say, yourself and myself. So for example, I just spun up my phone as a hotspot. How many of you know what that means? Okay. So it means I turned on the internet on my phone so that my laptop could get to that internet because I didn't want to use the public internet, right? So now my hotspot is broadcasting. So someone else could try to jump on my hotspot and start hacking it. And then the next thing you know, they have access to my phone. That would be illegal because I didn't give you the right to do that. So hacking requires written permission for you guys to be able to do that. All right, now I was talking about what your kids do online, but in this case, we'll skip through that pretty quickly. There are not any parents. Oh, maybe in the back there, a parent in the room. It's pretty shocking to me how young kids are on devices these days and setting up Minecraft accounts and Roblox accounts and things like that. So I think it's really important for parents to have just an open dialogue. Honestly, Roblox and Minecraft are two of the worst predatory websites for young people. So there's a lot of people, I would say 75% of people that are strangers on those programs are not who they say they are. And it's really fascinating. When I did my case with the FBI, I had a picture of the perpetrator, but in the end, that wasn't her at all. She just happened to be female. She had no other characteristics of her picture whatsoever. So she projected herself to be a college student who was 18. It turns out she was 28. Just everything about it was completely different. No worries. So obviously with young ones, we have supervision and restrictions. As you guys get older, I think it's really important for you to understand things that you can do, thank you, to keep yourself safe. Better? Okay. So some of the things that we have, filtering and blocking content, I will tell you, and I don't even know if that's in this slide, it might be, but there are going to be 5 things you're going to come out of here with that if you guys can do these things, you're going to be 90% safer than you were an hour ago. So let's just get to figure out what those are. One of the things I think is important is really using browsers for kids. Now, again, I have younger kids, and so for me, using browsers for kids is really important. Chrome has a kids browser, Brave has a kids browser, I believe. There are a couple of kids browsers themselves out there, but I tend to like to use the browsers that are pretty popular but have kind of a kids version. I think that's huge. Adding certain websites or eliminating certain websites. But I think from a parent's perspective, the biggest thing you can do are use search engines for kids and monitoring tools. So there are all kinds of monitoring tools out there. There are some free ones. There are some that work on Android, some that work on Apple. We have everything in our household. So I have monitoring tools on every kind of device, just so I can see sort of what's going on from the parenting perspective. But from owning a device, there we go. Okay, so again, tweens and teens, parents can do this. Set limits, set expectations. One of the things I've noticed, and you guys might have some experience on this, but I've noticed that once people have a keyboard attached to their fingers, they become very brave. Has anyone noticed that? I feel like I've noticed that. I'm like, oh, someone has a keyboard. So I think it's really important for you to remember that you still really have to have manners. And I've had a few incidences where my kiddo's phone was borrowed by a friend while at my house, who then texted a couple people, sometimes not appropriately. And but then my daughter's the one that gets in trouble. So don't ever let anyone use your device. Don't ever use your real name. Don't ever use real information. Anything that asks you for a birth date, if it's not legally required, I have a social birth date. So it's a birth date I use on my social accounts, right? Because it doesn't have to be legally required. Things like medical records, those are legal records. You have to provide your legal ID. But my daughter will ask me all the time, we go in to just like sign up at the trampoline park and they're like, enter your birth date. They don't need my real birth date. So things like that will help protect you out in the real world because hacks happen every day. I am. That's okay. That's okay. I'm having technical difficulties. That's all right. We'll just keep going. Socializing online. I'm going to get to the part where you guys can learn a few things. Okay. So we're all very familiar with oversharing. Geolocation services, honestly, are one of the things that can be really difficult for you guys at this age, because for me as a parent, I like to track you. I just like that. It gives me some sense of control. But for you as a kiddo, having those geolocation services on opens you up to a lot of possibilities for hackers and things like that. So that's something that I think is really important for us to talk about. Not oversharing, not using geo tagging, sharing things that are comfortable, but not, like oversharing. Let's go ahead and click forward. Thank you. And then you guys are familiar with cyberbullying. This is out of control. But again, it's just because when people have a keyboard, they feel very brave. So one of the things that I feel like is tough is you have to become a little thicker skinned in your generation. And I think that's a little unfortunate. But I think every generation has something to go through. And you guys, I feel like, are sort of guinea pigs for social technology. So I do think it's important. And here it's like, if you've come across fake profiles, you can report them, things like that. But you really have to get a grown-up involved if at any point you're being approached or talked to. What a lot of predators will do, in all honesty, is somehow get something from you, something that you didn't think was a big deal, you didn't anticipate it, and then they'll hold that over you, and that becomes time and time and time again. They'll ask you for something more, and then before you know it, you get stuck in this cyber relationship that becomes very, very destructive and difficult. From a mobile device standpoint, since that's one of the things you guys can do the most of, how many of you, does everyone here have a lock on their phone? So no one can get into it. Okay, perfect. So those are pretty easy options, but probably one of the best things you can do to keep yourself safe. How many of you run your updates every time they pop up on your phone? So it's time to run an update. Then you go, shoot. Is that what you do? Or you go, I'll do it tomorrow or the next day. Okay, in all honesty, you guys, if you just run your updates, you're going to make yourself 90% more secure, because most of the updates have a security component to them. That's going to be one of the ways you can keep yourself the most secure, is by running your updates. Having password protections. We'll go through the rules pretty quickly because, again, we have an older audience here. So just sharing, even with my daughter, I talk to her a lot where she wants to get her own YouTube channel. Pretty common, right? But what are the challenges with having a YouTube channel? For me, it's her visibility. I don't want her to be that visible. So she came up with an idea. What if we create it without my name? What if we create it where the videos don't show my face, where they just show my hands, or they just, all right. So this is being creative. This is what we need to do, is we need to be creative in this kind of society and figure out how we're going to get through this social environment. Oh, so one of the things about apps, okay, I'm a big, what's the word I'm looking for? The opposite of supportive. What's that word? What? Yeah, I'm completely not supportive. I do not like apps, and I'll tell you why. 99% of the apps require like 99% permission on your phone. So one of the apps that we like to play with a lot is Snapchat. I know it's a silly app, but we're silly girls and we like to play with Snapchat. Snapchat is horrible. It is a horrible, horrible app when it comes to security. It accesses your microphone. It accesses your camera. It accesses your contacts. It accesses everything that you can possibly think of on your phone. Snapchat says, can I have access to that? So if you install it, you say yes, 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 yes. So one of the things that we do is we install apps and we have fun with them and then we remove them. And then we can go, like today, we're going to go sit for half an hour doing something and we might Snapchat for a little bit. So I download Snapchat and then I uninstall it. There are some really bad apps out there, even in the Play Store. So you really have to do your research on some of these apps. When you go through the Play Store, make sure that you look at the reviews, that you read through and see what people are saying. There was another one I was going to think of that so we just dropped our dog off at this new little puppy park where they have cameras. So I installed their app. Well, my security on my phone flagged that app straight away. And it said, this is a not secure app for you. I'm like, yeah, I know. So I'm just going to watch my dog for 30 seconds and then I'm going to uninstall the app. So I think it is really important for you guys to go through and look at those. Ads, links, all of that can take you out to locations that download viruses on your phones. So anytime you have an ad that comes through, I never click on that ad. I go to the Play Store and I look up that app from the Play Store because the ads that come through are not verified by Google or Apple or anything else. The ads are not verified. The apps are verified to some degree, not completely, but the ads are not. And so you can actually click on an ad that will download a virus and then take over your phone. All right. I did mention this earlier on, no public Wi-Fi. And the reason I say that is because I have spun up a public Wi-Fi device called a Pineapple. If you haven't heard of it, that's one of the things that hackers use. And I've done this with permission. But like, for example, next week I'm speaking in Twin Falls. And I asked the venue if I could spin up a Wi-Fi. And they said yes. And so when the participants come in, we let them know that we're doing a demo for the day and that we've spun up a Wi-Fi. One of the things that I can do then is anyone that jumps on my Wi-Fi, I can start watching what they do. That's just one of the things I can do. I can give them a login page. So let's say here we're at Boise Center and you guys click on the Wi-Fi and it says, welcome to Boise Center. You have to click OK. On that OK button, I have a virus or I have a keylogger or I have something else. So those are the ways, especially at like airports or Starbucks, anything like that. You got to stay away from Wi-Fi. Okay. All right, so kind of the same thing, keep texting simple. Sorry, I'm going to go through that pretty quickly. So computer security and mobile security is where you guys are going to find the most things. So I would say having your virus software up to date is hugely important. There are about 50 settings in your browsers that you guys should go through. You should just Google Chrome browser security settings, and you should go through those settings because your default browsers, first off, I think Chrome is the worst browser on the market right now. What's the new Microsoft browser that just came out? Edge. That's the most secure browser right now outside of something like Brave, which is a sort of a technical user browser. Has anyone heard of Brave? Okay, so Brave is really that's how I would describe it, as a browser for a more technical user, but it also has the ability to do what's called incognito browsing. Any idea what that means? Go ahead. It blocks a few things. So not just third-party cookies, but it can block location services. It can block a couple of things. So private means I don't want the browser to keep track of, which includes cookies or anything else. Cookies, really honestly, I can show you one line of code that I can read all the cookies on your computer. Now, they aren't supposed to store a whole lot of information, but they actually do. If I can read some of your cookies, you'd be surprised. So clearing those cookies out, clearing that cache out, those are all browser settings. So what's your guys' default browser? How many of you use Chrome? Most everyone. Okay, worst browser out there right now. So I would say if you're going to use Chrome, let's go Google that YouTube video on the Chrome security settings and get that browser secure. You can also browse incognito on Chrome, but it's not as what I would say incognito as Brave would be. So Brave being a more technical browser. Personally, I'd probably just download Brave and use that and use it on your phone. It's just a really great, more secure browser is all it is. The unwanted pop-ups, those are all things that you can set in your browser settings as well. But I'll tell you a few other things. Like when most of you buy a PC, it comes with Windows Home Edition. Windows Home Edition has no security. So every computer that you buy at Costco, at Best Buy, at Fred Meyer's, any computer comes with, Windows 10 Home Edition. Costs about $99 to upgrade it. And as soon as you upgrade it, you now have security. So I would say anytime you get a new computer, or even now, you might say, hey, Mom, I need to upgrade my operating system, just so you can have a base level of security. So in general, the operating system that comes from what they consider a residential market, which would be at like Costco or Best Buy, they don't have any of these things that, say, a small business or corporation would have, which is why all small businesses and corporations are on something like Windows 10 Professional Edition. Okay. Malware, it just went over malware. Anytime you have anything that you can click on, and that can come through an email, it can come through a text message, it can come through an ad. Anything that you can click on can have a virus attached to it. So if you don't have security settings set up, I have a security software on my phone called ESET, E-S-E-T, and that does everything. It scans everything, including the apps I download. So it's really good for you guys to have something like that. Okay, thank you. Already went over that. Using public Wi-Fi is a no, no, no. So phishing is one of the ways that you guys get, in all honesty, this is how most things attack you, and that is through some sort of email. We call it phishing because we cast a lot, the hackers cast a lot of emails, and eventually they hook somebody. But what happens is it takes you to a page that looks very similar to a page that you thought it would look like your Wells Fargo banking app or your school app or whatever that is. But instead of being that, it's their login page. These are things I would love maybe next year we spin up a little like hacking 101 class, and we can show you guys how easy that is for us to do. So one of the reasons I felt it was important to become an ethical hacker is so I could see how easy it is to do some of these stuff and then block it. And I spend my whole life helping companies block these organizations from hacking us. So COPA is one of the areas that we have assistance for children, which is anyone under the age of 18. So this really is an organization that's designed that if you have any issues of any kind, you can contact them. And they will help you work through whatever the issue is. They are a government agency, and their entire design is to protect you as a person under the age of 18. So you do have something that you can go to. And the challenge is most parents don't know this. Most parents are not cyber savvy. Would you agree with that? And so I think it's really important for us to help our parents become a little bit more cyber savvy. How many of you have heard of a VPN, virtual private network? What does a VPN do? Any ideas? So what it does, it allows you to connect to a server that then masks your entire identity. So it masks your IP address, it masks your ISP, it masks all kinds of things, which really helps keep you safe. When you're on a PC at home, you should be running a VPN software 100% of the time. Now, there are a few challenges. How many in here game? Okay, so VPN's kind of out the window on some of your games because games in some cases require access to location services. Now, I don't play games that require that. I feel like that in and of itself is an invasion of privacy. I could be, in New York, right? It doesn't matter where I am to play Roblox. But I do think it's important for you guys to know that having something like a VPN would be a really good thing. All right, this is just about how COPA works, so it helps you understand that you can simply call honestly and get them to work with you to get certain things set up. And so a website that's in breach of COPA means that it's in breach of rules and regulations for people under the age of 18. So if you find websites like that, it's really important. Here's one of the things. How many of you have ever got a phishing email, right? Did you report it? So who do you report it to? You've got an email that's coming to either you from some invalid, you know that it's not a valid email, right? But we just a lot of times delete it or ignore it. If we've figured out we've figured out how to capture these phishing emails, we can see that they're coming from the wrong email address or whatever. But reporting it is really where we catch the bad guys. So in corporations, we install a button in the browser for all of our users, and all they have to do is click the button and say, this is a phishing email. So we install it in the browser, we install it in their mail client. For you guys, you don't have that reporting. From a standpoint of being under the age of 18, you do have the ability to contact the FTC. And it's just nice to have somewhere to go to say, look, I found this website that's, inappropriate for children. All right, so the things that you can do: run your updates, use a VPN when you can on your computer, use password protection, never use public Wi-Fi. And you should have some sort of virus, malware that's updated and running regularly. Those are kind of the best things that you can do at this stage as far as cyber goes. That's what we have for today's presentation, so I'll just open it up to questions from here. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Are there any VPNs that you recommend?
I like VPNs that I don't have to pay for monthly. Number one. I like VPNs that don't log anything. So there are some VPNs that still log, and they say, oh, we don't log this, or we don't log. If you log, I don't want to use you. So I use the VPN that I've been using for about 10 years. It's called vpnsecure.me. That's their website. And you can get a lifetime subscription, which is nice. And like I said, I've used them for about 10 years. So I really like that particular VPN for me personally. There are a couple of others, but I just don't like paying for anything monthly. I feel like that's just like another monthly fee, because you could get out of high school with $100 a month in fees, for heaven's sake. So yeah, I would suggest something that you can buy one time and then go from there. Thank you. What kind of games do you guys play? Yeah. So I think the biggest thing about being cyber safe, in all honesty, what people do who are not being honest with their identities is they can take a year, 2 years, 3 years to get to know you. So I just did a thing for the FBI on corporate catfishing, which is the same thing with you guys. It's just for corporations. And I had a company that came in as a client for a year and a half. They emailed, they bought, they sold, they acted like a client. And then they spun up a conference, and all these customers went to their conference. And at that conference, they spun up a public Wi-Fi. So what do you think they did with that public Wi-Fi? They stole everything. They took down this financial firm for $40 million in 24 hours. So the challenge that you guys have isn't that, but it's still similar blackmail. That's really what happens with cybersecurity, is they end up getting something from you that you find valuable or embarrassing or in any other way, and that becomes their leverage. So what I would say is, if you guys passwords should be gone. You should be into passphrases by now. Your passphrases should be 16 plus characters. If you're still at an 8, 9, 10 character password, I can hack that in 5 seconds. So you should, if I can get a hold of your physical device or get a keylogger onto your device, forget about it. Because once I have a physical device, it's really easy to hack. But from a remote standpoint, if you guys have a passphrase, so for example, my phone passphrase, I think is 27 characters. It's a phrase. I love Paris in the spring of 72. It doesn't matter what it is as long as it's a phrase, right? My puppy Rai Rai is the best puppy on planet Earth. There's a phrase. Doesn't matter what it is. It can be something super easy to remember, but it's extremely important you get away from passwords and go into passphrases. Does that make sense? Honestly, if it's over 16 characters, here's what I consider. You need to have bounce points for a hacker. So is your phone password protected? Bounce point. Do you have active virus running? Do you have a 16 plus character passphrase? Because hackers don't want to spend a lot of time with you. I mean, unless it's going to be someone who's going to spend a year or 2 years, right? Someone who's going to invest in you to figure out your stuff. But outside of that, if you guys run your updates, have some good password protection, and use VPN when you can, it'll make you the most safe. And probably go update your browser, because Chrome is a really not secure browser. So go take a look at some of the Chrome settings. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much, Cherie. That was great.
Appreciate it.